And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us. And I see you guys are already coming in on the Amazon side. So welcome to you guys. Tobias, thank you so much for the follow over on Amazon. If you guys are new to us here, make sure you guys do hit that follow button. That way you can be able to support us, to be able to know also when we're going live. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. You also will see the books by our next guest. We're excited to welcome back Dr. Teresa A. Smith. We know her affectionately as Dr. Taz. She's back with us today to talk to us about the power of this book, which is actually her third book, Transformation, and why no matter where we may find ourselves in the calendar year of 2024, it's something that we can begin doing today. She's going to talk to you guys about her own transformation. Her other books are also here in the carousel as well. We also are simulcasting today's broadcast, so welcome to you guys tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Glad you all could be with us as well. But Taz, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Cyrus.
Well, Taz, you know what I was thinking about? It was like, I just talked to Taz, but actually it was a different show, which is has a totally different theme, which is great. So now we get to kind of dive into, it's hard to believe that this week we're saying hello to a new week and goodbye to January.
Yeah.
I mean, it is crazy. Manswell, hello to you. Good to be able to see you over there on the Facebook side. So Taz, what has this year been like for you already?
Cyrus, it's been a whirlwind. And I mean, it's like you said, here it is, the end of the first month. And like other people, I'm already reflecting, they should be reflecting on what I've accomplished and what I haven't accomplished. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I'm a professor, so I take my own teaching advice. I'm looking at my metrics. I'm looking at how I feel about things to determine what my February really is to look like, because we'll look up and the first quarter of 2024 will be gone. Yes. So that's where I am now, trying to figure out, do I get off this path and get on another path? Because again, we're talking about transformation, but as you've heard me say, the worst thing you can do is get married to something and you won't let it go when you see it's not serving you well. And so I'm always trying to keep up with what's working and what's not working for me.
I love that, Taz, and I'm looking forward to being part of that journey with you. I'm working with Taz this year, so I'm excited about that. And Taz has a lot of great things independent of what she and I work together on as well. So we're going to let you guys know at the end how to stay connected with her. But Taz, you are the perfect guest to begin this week with, for those joining us live, because you have literally written the book on this, right? Not only transformation that our audience could see there, but also what Taz followed it up with this book, Transformation, the Bounce Back. You guys can see it there. But she was introduced to all of us. I'm going to highlight it in the carousel. Her very first book. We've been talking a lot about this recently, Taz. Your very first book, Stronger. Yeah. So I think an obvious question would be, as someone who came out of the gate talking about they were stronger, what has it been like for you in real time to be letting us see you go through your own transformation?
You know, Cyrus, we're always that the lava becoming the butterfly. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm very transparent. And I have been up and down, because, you know, when I wrote Stronger, I thought Not I had arrived, not that, because I had been writing this book since I was a little girl. So I wrote my book and I was like, good. Then it
Yeah.
was like, okay, you still got some work to do because
Mhm.
I've been in therapy, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, okay. So I thought I had evolved and I had evolved. But even at that point, I'm still dealing with trauma. So some things I realized were still a trauma response. And that led to the third book, which is transformation.
Mhm.
Because as you and I have talked about, change is so challenging. And the reason
Yes.
it's challenging, guys, is because you don't even think about it anymore. It's a part of your DNA. You just do things a certain way. And then when you're forced or you consider doing it differently, it's like, how do you do that differently? Because it's a part of you. And I've had to adjust constantly to things that made sense at one point in time, but it no longer makes sense for who I am today. And that's because I'm constantly changing. And I'll say this, Cyrus, for those who are still trying to figure out, do I want to lose a certain group of people or my relationship, personal relationships and family relationships and things of that nature? You owe it to yourself. Because
Yeah.
if you know that something isn't working for you and you continue to stay in that space, you can't blame anybody else. It's your decision. So
Mhm.
now it's not about them, it's about you. And my thing is, why would you do things that you know hurt you? But
Yeah.
we do that all the time because we don't think about it that way.
Exactly. Hello to you, Karen. Karen's joining us over on the Facebook side. Karen was in class with us in our recent class.
Yes.
She says, interesting book topics, Taz. So, again, for those who are just discovering Dr. Teresa A. Smith or Dr. Taz, she's the author of several books. We have Stronger, which was her very first book. We have it highlighted for you guys in the carousel over on the Amazon side. She followed that up with her next book, From Bravery to Victory, which is an ebook. We have it highlighted for you guys in the carousel. You guys can get it for $3.99. Then her third book, as we were just talking about, is this book, Transformation. And then her fourth book that she came out with is this one, Transformation: The Bounce Back, which is here. And then she threw everyone a curveball, I think, with her fifth book, which was a cookbook. But it was still on brand for you, Todd. So I want to talk about this because I love what you said. And you said, of course, about individuals marrying themselves to things, right? But there's also the other side of not stifling yourself. How
Yes.
important has it been for you to be able to explore your different forms of creativity, whether it's just writing and sharing or also cooking?
Cyrus, I was doing some editing, guys. So that's another thing that I'm now doing. I'm pretty slow at it, but I was
Mhm.
doing some editing. And I was editing a piece when we had talked about transformation before. And I shared that when I graduated from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, I went back, as an alum to get some career coaching. And having done the testing, we basically determined that I was good at a lot of things. But the question is, what do you want to focus on? So I use that as a springboard to answer the question because I love cooking. I absolutely love it. I love inventing stuff. It's my creative side that's just purely for me. And because I love cooking so much, it was just an easy segue for me to cook live, for me to do the cookbook, because I get to share another side of me. And as you know, some of the audience know, I've had gastric sleeve surgery because of Graves' disease.
Mhm.
So I know that struggle of still trying to remain healthy, but wanting to have something to eat that's not so healthy. And I think about, the cookbook, it's not just for people who've had gastric sleeve, people who may be diabetics, because I don't use real sugar, guys. It may be individuals who have to watch their cholesterol, their blood pressure, and things of that nature. Because I don't use fat meat is what my mama would call it because I'm from the South. So I don't use pork to season my food. And
Mhm.
so for me, it was just another way to share a component of myself that I think comes into play when you're looking at a holistic life, because you can't work on just one aspect of yourself when you're talking transformation. Every aspect of yourself has to transform. You think about that three-legged stool, and there are more than three pieces to changing your life. But if
Yeah.
one leg is short, then that stool is slumped over. So it's the
Yeah.
same thing about our life. We have to be conscious of all aspects.
Yeah. I want to talk about the other side of this, Taz. And this is something I've been wrestling with something today, and I'm not going to get into it during this segment, but I've been wrestling with something today. Nothing bad, but just some get dealing with this guy up here, and it's not
Okay.
easy. We both know that.
Oh yeah,
So,
now. Okay.
but But I wanted to say something. So we're talking about the challenges.
Mhm.
All of us have them. We're talking about the difficulties, the struggles. We all have them. But I want to talk about the achievement, Taz. You've written 5 books.
Mhm.
Do you give yourself enough grace? Because you and I talk to you about this all the time, in remembering what you have done instead of what you have not. Because I don't want people to go into this week as we're wrapping up the first month of 2024 and say, I haven't done this. I haven't done that. I said I was going to do this. Haven't done that. And it's great to hold yourself accountable.
Mhm.
But I think there's a danger there of not giving yourself credit for what you have done. So I pose the question to you, Taz. Have you given yourself credit for what you have done already this year?
Well, when I'm actually present, fully present, guys, you have to be fully present. When I'm fully present, and it's like, yeah, because it's like, oh my God. And in the bounce back, I talk about celebrating small successes
Hmm.
because each day we have one. But I have to disconnect, guys, because as long as I'm plugged into the matrix,
Hmm.
channeling my Kiana here, as long as I'm plugged in, I fail to see how I've met goals because I think for me anyway, I get it in my mind that if I say I'm going to do something by a certain date, it all has to be done. But
Hmm.
I was in an IEP meeting earlier, guys, today actually, and we talked about let's chunk what this person is doing. And that's appropriate for us too. If you can get a chunk of it done and then another chunk, you're making progress. But if you're thinking that you're going to have to eat the whole elephant at one time, then you're doing yourself a disservice. And I think what happens then, Cyrus, we lose that intrinsic motivation because it
Hmm.
needs to come from within us. But we have to be mindful of what we're doing. So I have to stay unplugged. I have to stay plugged into the real world, which
Yeah.
means you don't get it done like that. It takes
Yeah.
time. And then
Right.
I celebrate it.
Yeah, love that. Tobias, hello to you again. Appreciate you joining us. And thank all of you. I see you guys over there on YouTube as well as on Facebook. It's still coming in and on LinkedIn as well. See you guys there too. For those who are watching, welcome. You all are watching Cyrus Represents here on Amazon Live. That's where we primarily are broadcasting. But we also are simulcasting this on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Our guest is Dr. Teresa A. Smith. She's the author of several books. You all can see them over there on the Amazon side. We have her first book, Stronger, that's in there. Also, Transformation, the Bounce Back, you guys see here. Also, she has an ebook from Bravery to Victory, and then her cookbook, Transform with Todd's Healthy Recipes, as well. All of them are available here on Amazon. Really good prices on the Kindle to be able to add them to your list. Let's see. Karen says, interesting, transforming inside and out. I would have to check this out.
Thank
Good, Karen.
you,
Karen,
Kim.
and here's the other thing. And what Karen said is a great thing for us to go into, Ties, because as we are learning and growing and
Yes.
figuring it out, we're able to do two things. We're able to show other people
Mhm.
that it's not over, that they can do the same thing, but also we're able to encourage them of what's possible. What has that been like for you, Ties, to know that as you're figuring it out, that you're helping other people to do the same thing?
That's a little scary when you are modeling how to live and how to embrace things because not only am I now accountable for myself, I'm accountable for what I share or what other people see. And I'm,
Mhm.
I'm serious, that's a little unnerving. But I think that, as I say all the time, I have to live what I write. And that is
Mhm.
the hardest thing, guys, for me to live it because the other part of my brain would like to do otherwise. And I have to
Mhm.
keep grabbing it back and saying, no, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I say it's a step by step every day. But, my thought also is, Cyrus, if something that I do helps someone else, as the old folks and them Southern guys, then my living hasn't been in vain because
Mhm.
we're here to help other people. And I think for me, knowing that it encourages me times when I get down, because I get down too, guys, I get down too. But I have to, as I always say, I don't stay down long because I don't believe in wallowing in those emotions. I acknowledge them, then I got a plan for it, and then I get up. And so, therefore, being a role model is a lot of responsibility. And so I
Yeah.
take it very seriously. Hi,
Hello to you,
Melissa.
Melissa. Good to see you over on the Facebook side as well. Karen says, I trust your perspective. It's hard presenting it to other people, but your take on it will encourage me to look at it another way. And that's the whole thing.
Mhm,
I thought about something you wrote in Transformation to Bounce Back, Todd, as you were talking there about accountability, because you talk about one of the things for those who don't have this book, and I'll highlight it for you guys over on Amazon. But one of the things she does in here, she has a caring for myself contract agreement. And you say this in the agreement, ties. We can't make it through these steps without holding ourselves accountable. By answering these questions, you can
mhm,
develop a contract that looks out for your best interests. You don't need to worry about giving the wrong answer because the agreement is only with you. I want to stop there
mhm,
because this brings me to one of the things that has really become a pet peeve of mine now. And that is people deciding for themselves if they are doing anything and not doing anything based on the perceptions of other people.
mhm.
And so many times people have no clue what it takes to do what we do, what
Oh,
anyone does, but
mm-mm.
it doesn't stop them from having an opinion about
Yes,
it,
yes,
and telling you
yes.
should be moving quicker or slower, or going
Everybody's
this
dog.
way. Yeah. So, Toss, how do you hold yourself accountable and keep your blinders on so that you don't allow what other people think you should be doing impact what you should be doing?
Well, Cyrus, opinions is message 10. I just looked down in transformation. And
Mhm.
I grew up in I had interesting experiences growing up, and I wouldn't change anything for the world. But I learned early on this concept that you just talked about. Everybody's got an opinion about who you should be, who you're not going to be, who you are. And I've just learned from, and I'm going to be honest, God, I've learned from bullying that that's nice. That's your opinion. I'm gonna live my life the way I'm gonna live it, and you live yours the way you live it. And I often
Yeah.
talk about not using other people's barometer, meaning their yardstick, their
Mhm.
ruler to measure, their criteria to measure my life. Because if I do that, then I may never feel that I've done anything worthwhile because
Yes.
I'm comparing myself to them. And you got to remember, don't covet what other people have. I think I put that somewhere recently.
Mhm.
Don't covet what other people have because you got to remember this. Sometimes to get what they have, you got to go through what they went through. And
Yeah.
most likely, you don't want to go through that because
Mhm.
what you see is after the person has been refined and they've gone through the fire, and it all looks so great, shiny, the bobs and jewelry, they look so great. But do you really want to go through what they went through? No. So learning to be an individual, which sometimes I think, Cyrus, and I'm thinking quickly as I make the statement, I don't know if we as society in general, guys, if we really focus on the individuality the way perhaps we once did.
Mhm.
Because when I was being brought up, my mother made very clear to me that I'm an individual and
Yeah.
that that may look good on them, but that may not look good on you, and you got to be able to know the difference. So that was just ingrained in me, and I don't know if we do that now because we're in a different age as we're raising our children.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Ricardo, hello to you on the
Yeah,
Facebook side. Manswell says they have no idea at all. That is
yeah,
so true.
yes.
He also says what it takes to do what others do, they assume. And
Mhm,
that's the whole thing. And the reason why I brought this up, to be honest with you, Todd, I saw a video yesterday that Danielle Brooks posted on Instagram. And I was going to play it. Then I thought, Amazon may not like that, so I'm not going to play it. But I want to encourage people to go to Danielle Brooks's Instagram because she had an interview with Fantasia and her, of course, talking about the color purple.
mhm,
And the young interviewer must have said they cut it out, and which is fine. What she must have said to them, basically about how to get bigger or whatever. But what they showed was their response to the question she evidently asked. And
mhm.
Daniel Brooks was, "Don't try to rush it
No,
because you may not be ready for it at this
okay.
point.
Mm,
You need to just do what you're doing, and then
mhm.
when it happens, you'll be ready for it." And I think that's to go to the point you were just making, Todd. A lot of times people, you're right. I think it's now all about being the next X, Y, or Z. It's not
Yes.
about being you. It's
Mm-mm.
about being who's going to be the next this person, who's going to take
Mhm,
this person's space.
mhm,
And you're right. Your journey, the transformation that you talk about, is about just like this contract.
mhm.
You. you versus other people. So as you go throughout this year, then Taz, how do you hope to amplify that? Because I know you have other things you're working on this year. How do you hope to amplify that message of it being just you against you this year?
Cyrus, I've been thinking about that. And, of course, I'll continue to do my social media, but I've been trying to figure out how do I convey what we're talking about in a manner that people actually get it. Now, of course, some of the audience knows that I've got this new show on Instagram with my sister.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I bring the show up is because you get to see another side of me. I think sometimes we think, and we know it's not, but we just think that what we see is all there is to a person. And for me, it was important, it's just like with the cooking, for people to see the other side of me, because it's like it's puzzle pieces that we're putting together. And as long as the picture works for you, then you should be happy. So that's, even with that show, it's a way for me to model, you do what makes you happy, what works for you. It may not work for someone else. So I think, just living my truth, and being as transparent about it as I can be, understanding that for some people, they're going to be like, oh, I didn't think she was like that. Well, okay, well, that's nice. I didn't think XYZ too. But the reality is what we see, even though I don't wear a lot of filters, guys, no makeup. I put my glasses on so I looked like I was put together. Sarah's making me laugh. What we see, we have to learn to see beyond the filters. There's nothing wrong with filters, guys, but we have to learn to see beyond the filters to who the person truly is. And I think when we're able to be our authentic selves, then other people will feel empowered to do the same, whatever that is for them. And so I hope that as I go through this year, as I try different things, that they'll see, oh, yeah, she's the same person. She's just talking about something slightly different, but it's still the exact same person. And so my hope is that that will help other folks, as I said, to feel empowered to do likewise.
I have a program called Embrace Your Influence. You've been a part of it, Todd. So I want to ask you, what has that been like for you to embrace your influence? And what would you say to our audience about the importance of doing the same thing for themselves?
Embrace your influence. Well, I think Pastor Tandria, and I probably always mispronounce her name, but the pastor that I write about in the Bounce Back, she said, don't begrudge small beginnings. And I think that I don't think about my influence because I'm just being me. I'm just being me, guys. And so what I would say is I'm going to continue to be me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that I want other people to be who they are. Because once you can embrace your authentic self, that's when your influence arises. Because then you're true to yourself. I think about Christ and him walking among the people here on earth, but he was himself. He was born to a carpenter. So he wasn't walking, but he was everything. He was God in the flesh, but he was humble. You know what I'm trying to say? He was a humble person walking, just living his life. He had all that influence, but he didn't buy into the influence. He just was true to who he was and what his mission was. And so I think for me, understanding my purpose and being true to that, that's what brings the influence. And that's what I would say to other people. Don't get caught up in the bling bling or whatever. Just get caught up in who you are at your core, because that's what's going to keep you, I don't want to necessarily say humble. I'm going to use this word, and reach out to me if you don't understand what I'm saying. That's what's going to keep you safe.
I love that.
True to who you are will keep you safe.
Love that. Ricardo says, be your authentic self. Alicia says, hello. Hello to you, Alicia. Good to be to see you over there on the Facebook side. And she says, facts as well. Amazon customer on Amazon says, I'm excited to read Stronger. Glad I caught this. Definitely, if you guys are new to Dr. Taz, we're glad to have her back on. She is a great friend of mine, but also a great example of what it means to not only to become stronger, but to continue to transform as she's been able to do along her journey and to take us along for the journey. So, Amazon customer mentioned Stronger. Feel free to be able to click on any of the books you all see there in the carousel there. All of them are available here on Amazon. Transformation, of course, the book we were talking about earlier. Then there's Transformation, the Bounce Back. You don't have to read these together. But they continue her journey for sure. And then her cookbook as well. If you guys are looking for a cookbook with some healthy recipes, we have the cookbook there as well. Dr. Taz, our time always flies by, which is always exciting to be able to have you on. Melissa says great inspiration as well. So Taz, let our audience know how to stay connected with you and how can they watch your new show on IG.
Thank you, Cyrus. Well, the best way to stay connected to me is Dr. Teresa Smith on IG. My Linktree bio is there, and it'll take you to all of my social media, my YouTube channel. And then my new show is Real Talk with Taz and Angelia. It's on Instagram Live, Dr. Teresa Smith, on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time.
All right. It's Karen over there on Amazon. Glad you could find us over there, Karen. So again, if you guys are not joining us on the Amazon platform, the link will bring you guys over to Amazon so you can make sure that you get any of Taz's books. Also, make sure you guys hit that follow button. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. That way you can stay connected with all of our broadcasting here on Amazon. Taz, always a pleasure having you on the program and looking forward to our next chat together.
Thank you so much, Cyrus, for having me.
Glad to do it. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb, and thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk to you real soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.